Commander Jake Morrison stared at the data screen in front of him, his coffee growing cold in his hands. The numbers didn't make sense. None of it made sense. He rubbed his tired eyes and looked again, hoping the information would somehow change. "Lisa, come take a look at this," he called out to Dr. Lisa Carter, who was working at the geology station across the bridge of their ship. The New Horizon. Lisa walked over, her boots clicking on the metal floor. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and sharp green eyes that missed nothing. "What's got you looking like someone stole your lunch?" Jake pointed at the screen. "The Galactic Council just sent us Earth's official classification. Look at this." Lisa leaned over his shoulder and read the display. Her face went pale. "Class X Deathworld? That's the highest danger rating they have. Are you sure this is about Earth?" "That's what I thought too. But look at the coordinates." Jake highlighted a section of the data. "That's definitely our home planet." Lieutenant Ben Phillips walked over from his station near the weapons console. He was a young man with blonde hair and a serious expression that made him look older than his 28 years. "Did someone say Earth got classified as a death world?" "That's got to be a mistake." "Read it yourself," Jake said, moving aside so Ben could see the screen. Ben's eyes widened as he read. "Gravity 3 times galactic average. Atmospheric pressure. Lethal to most known species. Extreme weather patterns. Volcanic activity, seismic instability, radiation levels." He looked up at Jake. "This makes us sound like monsters." "Or like we're from a planet that should have killed us long ago," Lisa said quietly. Jake pulled up more data. "Look at this comparison chart. Most species in the galaxy evolved on worlds with gravity between 0.3 and 0.8 of Earth normal. The average atmospheric pressure is about half of what we breathe. And apparently most planets have weather patterns that barely change from season to season." "So we're the tough guys of the galaxy?" Ben asked. "More than that," Lisa said, studying the geological data. "Look at these readings." "Jake, can you pull up the detailed planetary composition?" Jake typed commands into the console. Charts and graphs filled the screen, showing Earth's internal structure, mineral distribution, and tectonic activity. Lisa studied the information for several minutes, her frown deepening. "This is strange. Very strange. What do you mean?" Jake asked. "Look at how the dangerous elements are distributed. The fault lines, the volcanic zones, the areas with high radiation, they're not random." Lisa traced patterns on the screen with her finger. "On most planets, you'd expect to see more clustering, more random distribution. But Earth's dangers are spread out almost like someone planned it." Ben leaned closer. "Are you saying someone designed Earth to be dangerous?" "I'm saying the patterns are too perfect, too organized." Lisa pulled up comparison data from other known death worlds. "Look at Zarian Prime. It's classified as a Class T death world because of its acid rain and metal-eating bacteria. But that's it, 2 major dangers." Or look at Goral 7, Class U death world with crushing gravity and poisonous air. Again, just 2 main threats. "But Earth has everything," Jake said, understanding where she was going. "Exactly. Deadly weather, crushing gravity, poisonous atmosphere to most species, radiation, seismic activity, volcanic eruptions, and more. It's like someone took every possible way to kill alien life and put it all on one planet." The 3 humans stood in silence, staring at the data. Finally, Ben spoke up. "So what are you thinking? That someone built Earth as a weapon?" "I don't know what I'm thinking yet," Lisa admitted, "but I want to run some more tests." "Jake, can you get me access to the deep geological surveys we did last year?" "Already pulling them up," Jake said, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "But Lisa, if you're right about this, it raises some serious questions." "Like what?" "Like who built it, and why, and what they were trying to kill," Lisa nodded grimly, "and whether they succeeded." Over the next few hours, Lisa dove deep into the geological data while Jake and Ben helped her analyze the information. The more they looked, the more obvious the patterns became. Earth wasn't just dangerous by accident. It was dangerous by design. "Look at this," Lisa said, pointing to a 3-dimensional model of Earth's core. "The distribution of heavy metals and radioactive materials. It's not natural. Someone placed these materials in specific locations to create maximum instability. And the continental drift patterns? Ben added, studying another screen. The way the continents are positioned creates the maximum number of collision zones. And fault lines, Jake pulled up atmospheric data. Even our air is weird. The oxygen concentration is higher than it should be for a planet this size. It's like someone wanted to create an atmosphere that would be toxic to most life forms but perfect for combustion. Combustion? Lisa asked. Think about it. High oxygen means fires burn hotter and spread faster. It also means that most alien species would get oxygen poisoning just from breathing our air. But for us, it's perfect. We evolved to not just survive in this atmosphere, but to thrive in it. Ben was quiet for a moment, then spoke up. Guys, I've been thinking about something. We keep talking about Earth being designed to kill alien life. But what if it was designed to kill something specific? What do you mean? Jake asked. I mean, what if whoever built Earth wasn't just trying to create a generally dangerous planet? What if they were trying to create a planet that would be lethal to one particular species? Lisa looked up from her data analysis. That's an interesting thought. A planet designed as a trap for a specific enemy. But that would mean whoever built it knew exactly what they were fighting, Jake said. They would have had to understand their enemy's biology, their technology, their weaknesses, and it would mean they were desperate enough to build an entire planet as a weapon, Ben added. The three of them looked at each other, the implications sinking in. If Earth was designed as a weapon, then humanity had been living on a battleground without knowing it. But more than that, they might be the descendants of whatever civilization had built the weapon in the first place. We need more information, Jake said finally. Lisa, can you run a full spectral analysis of the solar system? Look for any signs of ancient technology or unusual materials. Already on it, Lisa replied. But Jake, if I'm right about this, we might be looking at evidence of a war that happened millions of years ago. A war big enough that someone built an entire planet as a weapon, Ben said quietly. Jake nodded grimly. And if that's true, then we need to find out who they were fighting. Because if Earth was built to kill something, we need to know whether it worked. The New Horizon continued its journey through space, but the three humans on board were no longer just exploring. They were investigating what might be the greatest mystery in galactic history. And they were starting to suspect that the answer might change everything they thought they knew about Earth, about humanity, and about their place in the universe. As Jake looked out at the stars, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Somewhere out there, in the vast darkness of space, something might be waiting. Something that Earth had been built to kill, and he hoped, for the sake of every living thing in the galaxy, that it was still dead. 3 days after their discovery, Jake Morrison made a decision that could end his career. He changed course without permission from Earth Command, directing the New Horizon toward the outer edges of the solar system where Lisa's scans had detected something unusual. Are you sure about this? Ben asked as he watched Jake input the new coordinates. Command is going to be furious when they find out we're not following our original mission. Let them be furious, Jake replied. If we're right about Earth being designed, then this is bigger than any routine survey mission. We need answers. Lisa looked up from her station where she had been studying the sensor data for hours. Jake, I'm reading debris fields in the outer solar system, lots of them. And the materials don't match anything in our databases. How old? Jake asked. That's the thing. The decay pattern suggests they're ancient, really ancient. Maybe millions of years old, Ben whistled low. That's older than recorded galactic history. Much older, Lisa confirmed. And there's something else. The debris isn't scattered randomly. It's in formation patterns, like fleets of ships that were destroyed in battle. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Battle formations? Look at this, Lisa said, putting the sensor data on the main screen. The display showed the solar system with thousands of small red dots marking debris locations. See how they're arranged? These clusters here look like defensive formations. And these scattered pieces over here suggest ships that were trying to retreat. Ben studied the patterns with his military training. Lisa's right. This looks like the aftermath of a major space battle, but the scale is enormous. There must be debris from hundreds of thousands of ships out there, or bigger ships than we've ever seen. Jake said quietly. They spent the next 2 days collecting samples from the debris fields. What they found made their original discovery about Earth seem small by comparison. The wreckage contained technology that was far beyond anything the current galactic civilization could create. This material shouldn't exist, Lisa said, holding up a fragment of metal that seemed to shift colors in the light. It's not on any periodic table I know of, and look at this. She placed the fragment under a microscope and displayed the image on screen. The molecular structure is impossible. It's like someone took the laws of physics and bent them into shapes they're not supposed to make. Jake examined another piece of debris. The size of these fragments suggests the original ships were massive. Some of these hull pieces are bigger than our entire vessel. Giants, Ben said, studying the data. Whoever built these ships was either much bigger than us or they built on a scale we can't imagine. Or both, Lisa added. Look at these energy readings. Even after millions of years, some of these fragments are still giving off radiation signatures. Whatever powered these ships was incredibly advanced. As they continued their investigation, patterns began to emerge. The debris fields told a story of two different types of technology. One seemed to be defensive, with thick armor plating and energy shields. The other was clearly designed for destruction, with weapons that could tear apart entire planets. Two different civilizations, Jake concluded after reviewing the data. They fought a war here in our solar system. But why here? Ben asked. What made this location so important? Lisa had been quiet for the past hour, running calculations on her computer. Finally, she looked up with a pale face. I think I know why they fought here. Look at these orbital mechanics. She put up a display showing the positions of the planets and the debris fields. The debris isn't just scattered randomly through the solar system. It's arranged in specific patterns that create gravitational effects. What kind of effects? Jake asked. The kind that would pull anything entering the solar system toward Earth. This entire system is designed as a trap. The debris fields act like a funnel, channeling enemy ships directly toward our planet, then stared at the display. So Earth wasn't just built as a weapon. The entire solar system was turned into a trap. That's what it looks like, Lisa confirmed. But here's the scary part. Based on the debris patterns, the trap worked. Whatever they were fighting, it got pulled toward Earth, and based on the energy signatures I'm reading, the final battle happened right in Earth's orbit. Jake felt the pieces of the puzzle starting to come together. So we have two civilizations. One built Earth as a weapon and turned the solar system into a trap. The other was their enemy, and they got caught in the trap. But who won? Ben asked. Lisa pulled up more data. That's where it gets interesting. Look at these energy readings from the debris closest to Earth. The defensive technology shows signs of massive damage, but the attacking technology shows signs of something else. What? Jake asked. Absorption. Like something was draining the energy right out of the ships. Draining energy? Ben frowned. What could do that? I don't know, but I'm starting to form a theory, Lisa said. What if the enemy wasn't just another civilization with advanced technology? What if they were something that fed on energy? Something that could absorb and consume other forms of life? Jake felt another chill. You mean like a parasite species? More than that. Look at these consumption patterns in the debris. Whatever attacked these ships didn't just destroy them. It consumed them. Absorbed their technology, their energy, maybe even their crews. Ben was quiet for a moment. So Earth was built to kill something that consumed other civilizations? That's my theory, Lisa said. And based on the debris patterns, Earth's builders lured this enemy here and trapped them. But the question is, what happened to both civilizations? Maybe they destroyed each other, Jake suggested. Or maybe, Lisa said quietly, the enemy is still here. The thought hung in the air like a dark cloud. Jake looked at the sensor displays showing Earth in the distance. That beautiful blue and green planet that had seemed so safe just a week ago. We need to get closer to Earth, he said finally. If there's any evidence of what happened in the final battle, it'll be there. Jake, Ben said carefully, what if the enemy isn't dead? What if Earth was built to contain them, not kill them? You mean like a prison? Jake asked. Think about it. If you're fighting an enemy that can absorb energy and consume civilizations, you can't just destroy them with conventional weapons. You'd need something else, something that could hold them. Lisa nodded slowly. A planet designed to be hostile to their specific biology, a prison world that would keep them contained. But that would mean, Jake said, the realization hitting him, that humanity evolved on a planet that was designed to be a prison. And if we're right about this, then we might be the guards who don't know what we're guarding. The three humans stared at each other in the silence of space. Around them, the debris of an ancient war drifted through the darkness, holding secrets that could change everything they thought they knew about their place in the universe. Set course for Earth, Jake said finally. We need to find out what really happened in that final battle. And we need to find out if our planet is still doing the job it was built to do. As the New Horizon changed course toward home, none of them noticed the subtle changes in the energy readings from some of the debris. Deep in the wreckage of ships millions of years old, something was stirring. Something that had been sleeping for eons was beginning to wake up, and back on Earth, in the deepest parts of the planet where no human had ever been. Ancient systems were detecting the approach of the New Horizon. Systems that had been waiting for millions of years were finally receiving the signal. They had been programmed to recognize the investigation had begun, but so had something else. Something that would change the fate of humanity and the entire galaxy. The New Horizon entered Earth's atmosphere 2 days later, but not where Jake had originally planned. Lisa's scans had detected something unusual in the mountains of Colorado, a series of caves that seemed to go much deeper than they should. The energy readings are off the charts, Lisa said as they landed their shuttle near the cave entrance. Whatever's down there, it's been active for a very long time. Ben checked his equipment one more time. Are we sure this is safe? I mean, if Earth really is a prison planet, maybe we shouldn't be poking around in the basement. We need answers, Jake said firmly. And this might be our only chance to get them. The cave entrance looked natural, but as they descended deeper, it became clear that someone had modified it. The walls were too smooth, the passages too straight. Ancient symbols were carved into the stone, symbols that didn't match any known human language. How deep does this go? Ben asked, shining his flashlight into the darkness ahead. According to my scans, at least 2 miles, Lisa replied, maybe more. The energy source is still below us. They walked for hours, following passages that seemed to spiral down toward the center of the Earth. The air was warm and filled with a strange humming sound that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Do you hear that? Jake asked, stopping to listen. Like machinery, Ben said. The very old machinery. Lisa held up her scanner. The energy readings are getting stronger. We're close to something big. They turned a corner and stopped. Ahead of them, the cave opened into a massive chamber that stretched beyond the reach of their lights. In the center of the chamber stood a structure that looked like it had been grown rather than built. It was tall and twisted, made of a material that seemed to shift and change color as they watched. What is that? Ben whispered. I don't know, Jake replied, but it's beautiful. As they approached the structure, lights began to appear along its surface. The humming sound grew louder, and suddenly a voice spoke from everywhere and nowhere. At once, welcome, children of Earth, I have been waiting for you. The 3 humans froze. The voice was speaking English, but it sounded ancient and tired, like someone who had been alone for a very long time. Who are you? Jake asked, trying to keep his voice steady. I am Guardian. I am the keeper of memories, the watcher of the prison, the last voice of the architects. The architects? Lisa stepped forward. Are they the ones who built Earth? Yes. My creators. They built this world as their final weapon against the Devourers. They built it to save the galaxy from extinction. The structure in front of them began to change, its surface becoming transparent. Inside, they could see what looked like a vast library, filled with floating symbols and images. "Show us," Jake said. "Show us what happened." The chamber around them disappeared, replaced by images that seemed to come from the walls themselves. They were standing in space, watching as massive ships moved through the darkness. The ships were beautiful, made of the same shifting material as the structure in the cave. The architects were explorers, Guardian explained. They traveled the galaxy, learning, growing, helping younger civilizations develop. For millions of years, they brought peace and knowledge to countless worlds. The images changed, showing planets covered in cities of light, beings of all shapes and sizes living together in harmony. Then the Devourers came, and the peaceful images were replaced by scenes of horror. Dark shapes moved through space, consuming everything in their path. Planets were drained of all life, leaving behind empty husks. Entire star systems went dark as the Devourers fed on their energy. "What are they?" Ben asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "They are hunger given form. They exist only to consume. They absorb energy, matter, life itself. Every civilization they encounter becomes part of them, adding to their knowledge and power." Lisa watched in horror as the images showed the Devourers consuming entire fleets of ships, growing larger and more powerful with each victory. "The architects fought them for thousands of years," Guardian continued, "but conventional weapons were useless. The Devourers could absorb any form of energy, adapt to any attack. They consumed the architects' allies, their technology, their very essence. So the architects built Earth," Jake said, beginning to understand. "Yes, but not as a weapon of destruction. As a weapon of containment. They studied the Devourers for centuries, learning their weaknesses, their biology, their needs. Then they designed Earth to be the perfect prison. The images showed the construction of Earth, massive machines reshaping matter, creating mountains, and oceans filling the air with the perfect mixture of gases. Every aspect of this world was designed to weaken the Devourers, Guardian explained. The gravity is too strong for them to move freely. The atmospheric pressure interferes with their energy absorption. The seismic activity disrupts their ability to establish permanent settlements. Even the radiation levels are calibrated to slowly poison them. But humans can survive here, Lisa said. We've thrived here. That was also by design. The architects seeded Earth with genetic material from their own bodies. Humans are the descendants of the architects, modified to survive in Earth's hostile environment. You are the guards of this prison, though you did not know it." Ben stared at the images of the ancient war. Did the plan work? Did they trap the Devourers? The images changed, showing the final battle. Massive architect ships surrounded Earth while dark shapes moved through space toward the planet. The Devourers had taken the bait, believing Earth to be another world to consume. The architects lured the Devourers here and activated Earth's defenses, but the cost was enormous. To power the prison, to maintain the barriers that would hold the Devourers, the architects had to sacrifice themselves. They gave their lives to create a temporal prison that would hold the Devourers until Earth's environment eventually killed them. "A temporal prison?" Jake asked. "Time moves differently for the Devourers now. What feels like days to them is actually centuries to the rest of the galaxy. They are trapped in a bubble of slowed time, unable to escape, slowly dying as Earth's hostile environment poisons them." "Where are they?" Lisa asked quietly. "Deep below the surface, in chambers built to contain them. They have been sleeping for millions of years, but they are not dead." "Not yet." The three humans stood in silence, trying to process what they had learned. Earth wasn't just their home. It was a prison, and they were the descendants of its guards. "Why? Are you telling us this now?" Ben asked. "Because the prison is failing," Guardian's voice carried a note of sadness. "The temporal barriers weaken over time. The Devourers have been stirring in their sleep. Your species' expansion into space? Your nuclear weapons, your deep drilling projects, all of these things have been disrupting the prison systems. How long do we have? Jake asked. Perhaps a few decades. Maybe less. The devourers grow stronger with each passing year. When they finally wake, they will be hungry. And they will remember why they came to Earth. Lisa looked at the ancient symbols. On the walls, what can we do? How do we stop them? There are 3 paths before you, Guardian said. You can strengthen the prison, but this would require humanity to abandon space exploration and remain on Earth forever. You can evacuate Earth and destroy the planet, ensuring the devourers die with it. Or you can choose the path the architects hoped you would choose. Which is? Learn to be what you were created to be. Become the guardians of the galaxy. Take up the architect's mission and protect other worlds from threats like the devourers. Jake looked at his companions. And if we're not strong enough? Then the galaxy will fall to hunger and all life will end in darkness. The images faded, leaving them standing in the chamber with Guardian's structure pulsing softly in the darkness. The weight of their discovery pressed down on them like the miles of rock above their heads. They had come looking for answers about Earth's nature. Instead, they had found the burden of an entire galaxy's survival resting on humanity's shoulders. The journey back to the surface felt different now. Jake, Lisa, and Ben climbed through the ancient passages in silence, each lost in their own thoughts about what Guardian had revealed. The weight of humanity's true purpose pressed down on them, heavier than the miles of rock above. We have to tell people, Lisa said finally as they reached the cave entrance. The world needs to know what we discovered. Tell them what exactly? Ben asked. That Earth is a prison planet? That we're descended from ancient aliens? That there are monsters sleeping under our feet? The truth, Jake said firmly. Whatever. The consequences. But as they emerged into daylight, they found their shuttle surrounded by military vehicles. Soldiers in Earth Defense Force uniforms had weapons pointed at them. A tall man with gray hair and cold eyes stepped forward. Commander. Morrison, Dr. Carter, Lieutenant Phillips. I'm General Ryan Clark. You're all under arrest for unauthorized deviation from mission parameters. Jake held up his hands. General, we need to talk. What we found down there changes everything. What you found down there is classified beyond your security level, Clark replied. You've stumbled into something that threatens the stability of human civilization. Lisa stepped forward. You knew? You knew about the architects and the devourers? Clark's expression didn't change. Dr. Carter, you will not discuss classified information in the open. All 3 of you will come with us immediately. As the soldiers escorted them to the transport vehicles, Jake realized that their discovery had triggered something much bigger than they had imagined. The military had been watching, waiting for someone to find what they had found. They were taken to a secure facility buried deep in the mountains of Nevada. The complex was enormous, stretching far underground, filled with technology that seemed to combine human engineering with something else entirely. Welcome to Deep Shield, Clark said as he led them through corridors lined with strange symbols. This facility has been monitoring Earth's prison systems for over 50 years. 50 years? Ben asked. How long have you known? We've known parts of the truth since the 1970s. Deep drilling projects started detecting unusual energy signatures. Archaeological surveys found fragments of architect technology. Over the decades, we've pieced together enough to understand the basic situation. They entered a large command center where dozens of technicians worked at consoles displaying data that looked familiar to Lisa. She recognized the energy patterns from her scans of the debris fields. You've been monitoring the devourers, she sighed. Among other things, Clark replied. Dr. Carter, your geological surveys over the past few days have provided us with more detailed information than we've gathered in 20 years. The prison systems are failing faster than we calculated. Young technician approached them. General, we're detecting increased activity in sectors 7 through 12. The containment fields are showing stress fractures. Clark nodded grimly. How long? Best estimate. 6 months before the first containment breach, maybe less. Jake felt his blood run cold. 6 months until they wake up? 6 months until they start breaking free, Clark corrected. The full awakening could take years, but once it begins, there's no stopping it. Clark led them to a briefing room where the walls were covered with maps, diagrams, and photographs. Jake recognized images from Guardian's archive mixed with human surveillance data. "We've been preparing for this day," Clark said. Operation Deep Shield has 3 primary objectives. First, monitor the prison systems and maintain them as long as possible. Second, develop contingency plans for when the Devourers break free. Third, prepare humanity for its role as Galactic Guardians. "You want us to fight them?" Ben said. "We want humanity to survive," Clark replied. "The architects designed us to be capable of more than just surviving on Earth. We have genetic modifications that make us stronger, faster, more adaptable than any other known species in the galaxy." Lisa studied the diagrams on the wall. "These look like weapon designs. Are you building architect technology?" "We're trying to." "Some of their simpler devices have been successfully reproduced. But the advanced systems require genetic codes that only full-blooded architects possessed." "Genetic codes that humans might carry," Jake realized. "Exactly, Dr. Carter. Your ability to interpret the geological patterns wasn't just scientific. Training. You have a stronger connection to architect genetics than most humans. Lieutenant Phillips, your tactical analysis of the debris fields showed an intuitive understanding of their military strategies." Ben looked uncomfortable. "You're saying we're more alien than human?" "I'm saying you're what humanity was designed to become," Clark replied. "The architects didn't just create guards for their prison. They created their successors." A technician burst into the room. "General, we have a problem." The New Horizons investigation triggered something in the outer debris fields. "We're detecting movement." Clark's face went pale. "Show me." The main display showed a view of space beyond Earth's orbit. At first, everything looked normal. Then Jake saw it. Some of the debris pieces were moving, drifting together like they were being pulled by an invisible force. "The Devourers?" Lisa asked. "No," Clark said quietly. "Something else. Something that's been dormant in the wreckage for millions of years." As they watched, the debris pieces began to combine, forming larger structures. The twisted metal and strange materials were rebuilding themselves into shapes that looked almost like ships. "Architect technology," Jake breathed. "It's still active." "The architects built their systems to last," Clark explained. "Some of their automated defenses have been waiting for the right trigger to activate. Your investigation sent out signals that woke them up." "Is that good or bad?" Ben asked. "That depends on what they're programmed to do," Clark replied. "The architects' final systems were designed to activate when the prison began to fail. They might be preparing to strengthen the containment fields, or they might be preparing for war." The display showed more debris fields coming to life. Ancient technology that had been dormant for millions of years was awakening throughout the solar system. "There's something else," the technician said nervously. "We're detecting changes in the deep containment areas. The Devourers are responding to the activity in space." "They're waking up," Lisa said. "Not yet," Clark said. "But they're stirring. The temporal barriers are fluctuating. Time is moving faster for them now." Jake stared at the display showing the ancient technology rebuilding itself. "How long before we know what the architect systems are planning to do?" "Unknown." "But Commander Morrison, this is why we need you and your team. You've made contact with Guardian. You have access to architect knowledge that we don't. You want us to go back down there," Ben said. "I want you to learn everything you can about the architects. Final protocols. If their automated systems are activating, we need to understand their purpose. Are they going to help us maintain the prison? Or are they preparing for the Devourers to escape?" Lisa looked at the data streaming across the monitors. "What if they're preparing to do both?" Clark frowned. "What do you mean?" "What if the architect's final plan wasn't just to contain the Devourers forever? What if they knew the prison would eventually fail, and they prepared for that too? You think they have a backup plan? Jake said. I think they've been preparing humanity for this moment for millions of years, Lisa replied. The genetic modifications, the weapons technology, the strategic knowledge. Maybe the prison was never meant to be permanent. Maybe it was just supposed to buy time until their successors were ready. Ready for what? Ben asked. Ready to finish what the architects started? Jake said, understanding dawning in his eyes. Ready to destroy the Devourers once and for all. Clark was quiet for a long moment, studying the data on the screens. Finally he spoke. Dr. Carter, I think you might be right. And if you are, then humanity is about to face its greatest test. The question is, Jake said, watching the ancient technology rebuild itself in the darkness of space, are we ready for it? As if in answer to his question, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. The technicians scrambled to their stations as new data flooded the screens. General, one of them called out, we're detecting massive energy spikes from the containment areas. The Devourers are definitely responding to the activity in space. How long until containment breach? Clark asked. At this rate, days, not months? The room fell silent except for the sound of alarms and the hum of computers processing data that could determine the fate of the galaxy. The alarms had been blaring for 3 hours when the first containment breach occurred. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, sensors detected a crack in one of the temporal barriers that had held the Devourers for millions of years. Breach in Sector 15, a technician reported to General Clark. Temporal field is collapsing. We're reading massive energy fluctuations. Jake stood at the command center watching the displays with growing dread. The ancient technology in space was rebuilding itself faster now, but it wasn't clear if it would be ready in time. We need to get back to Guardian, he said to Clark. If the architect systems are activating, Guardian might be able to tell us what they're planning to do. Agreed, Clark replied. But this time, you're not going alone. Within an hour, Jake, Lisa, and Ben were heading back to the Colorado caves with a full military escort. The journey felt different now, urgent and desperate. Every minute that passed brought them closer to the moment when the Devourers would break free. When they reached Guardian's chamber, the ancient AI was waiting for them. The structure was glowing brighter than before, and new symbols were appearing on its surface. The final protocols have been activated, Guardian said before anyone could speak. My creator's last gift to the galaxy is awakening. What final protocols? Jake asked. The architects knew the prison would not hold forever. They designed backup systems to activate when the temporal barriers began to fail. These systems have 3 purposes. First, to give humanity the tools needed to fight the Devourers. Second, to prepare other worlds for the coming war. Third, to ensure that if humanity fails, the galaxy will be protected by other means. The chamber around them filled with new images. They could see the debris fields in space, but now the reformed structures were clearly visible. Massive ships were taking shape, their hulls gleaming with the same strange material as Guardian's structure. The architect fleet, Lisa breathed. A small portion of it, Guardian corrected. These ships contain the knowledge and weapons needed to fight the Devourers, but they require crews with architect genetics to operate them. Humans? Ben said. Yes, but not all humans are suitable. The genetic modifications are stronger in some bloodlines than others. Those who can successfully interface with architect technology will become the new guardians of the galaxy. General Clark stepped forward. How many people are we talking? About? Perhaps 1 in every 1,000 humans carries the necessary genetic markers. Roughly 7 million people across Earth. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. And the rest of humanity? They will play their own vital role. The Devourers are not the only threat in the galaxy. There are other dark things sleeping in the void, other ancient enemies that the architects once fought. Humanity will need to grow strong, to spread across the stars, to become the guardians the galaxy needs. What about the Devourers themselves? Lisa asked. How do we fight something that can absorb any form of energy? Guardian's structure shifted, revealing new images. They showed weapons unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. Devices that seemed to bend space itself, tools that could drain energy instead of providing it, ships that moved through dimensions rather than normal space. The architects learned that the Devourers have one weakness, Guardian explained. They cannot absorb what they cannot understand. The architect weapons work on principles that the Devourers never encountered in their millions of years of existence. And humans can learn to use these weapons? Ben asked. Some can. Those with the strongest genetic connections will be able to interface directly with the technology. Others will need training devices that the architects prepared for this purpose. Suddenly, the chamber shook. Dust fell from the ceiling as a deep rumbling sound echoed through the caves. What was that? Jake asked. The second containment breach, Guardian replied. The Devourers are testing their prison. They have not yet realized their situation, but they will soon. How long do we have? Clark asked urgently. Hours, perhaps. Less. When they fully awaken, they will attempt to break free all at once. The temporal barriers will collapse completely. Then we need to move now, Jake said. Guardian, can you transfer the architect knowledge to our computers? Can you teach our people how to use their weapons? I can, but there is a cost. Accessing the full database will require opening direct links to the rebuilt fleet. This will alert the Devourers to your presence. They will know that the architects' successors have awakened. Will they attack immediately? Lisa asked. They will try. But they are still weak from their long imprisonment. You will have a brief window to prepare. Jake looked at his companions and then at General Clark. The decision that would determine humanity's future rested in their hands. Do it, Jake said. Transfer everything. Guardian's structure began to pulse with brilliant light. The symbols on the walls started moving, flowing like liquid as vast amounts of information poured into the human computers. Jake could feel something changing in his mind, new knowledge appearing as if it had always been there. That the genetic activation has begun, Guardian said. Those with architect heritage will begin to understand their true capabilities. Lisa gasped as she felt the change. Her understanding of the geological patterns around them expanded beyond anything she had ever imagined. She could sense the planet's deep structure, the prison systems. The sleeping Devourers far below. Ben experienced something different. Military strategies from 1,000,000 ancient battles filled his mind. He understood tactics for fighting enemies that moved between dimensions, weapons that could destroy concepts rather than matter. This is incredible, he whispered, but their moment of wonder was interrupted by another, stronger earthquake. This time, the rumbling didn't stop. They are awakening, Guardian said. The Devourers have realized they are imprisoned and they are angry. The displays in the chamber showed chaos erupting across the globe. Earthquakes struck every continent as the Devourers tested the barriers that held them. The rebuilt architect. Fleet in space began moving, taking defensive positions around Earth. Guardian, Jake said urgently, what do we do now? Now you choose. You can try to strengthen the prison and keep the Devourers contained, but this will only delay the inevitable. You can evacuate Earth and destroy the planet, ensuring the Devourers die with it. Or you can face them in battle and try to destroy them forever. What do the architects recommend? My creators believed in growth through challenge. They thought that civilizations become stronger by facing their greatest fears. They designed you to be capable of destroying the Devourers, but only if you are willing to take the risk, Clark spoke into his radio. All stations, this is Deep Shield Command. Begin evacuation of major population centers. Activate the emergency broadcast system. Tell people this is not a drill. You're choosing to fight, Jake said. I'm choosing to give humanity a chance, Clark replied. Guardian, how do we get our people to the architect ships? Those with genetic markers will feel the call. The ships will guide them. But Commander Morrison, Dr. Carter, Lieutenant Phillips, you three must lead them. Your connection to the architect heritage is stronger than most. As if summoned by Guardian's words, Jake felt a pull in his mind. He could sense the architect's ships in space, waiting for their crews. The knowledge Guardian had given him was reorganizing itself, showing him how to pilot vessels that move through folded space. "We need to go," he said. "The Devourers are almost free?" "Go," Guardian said. "I will maintain the barriers as long as possible. When you are ready to face them, I will lower the prison walls." "And if we fail?" Lisa asked. "Then the galaxy will mourn the passing of hope, but I do not believe you will fail. The architects chose your species well." As they left Guardian's chamber for the last time, the ancient AI's voice followed them. "Remember, children of Earth, you are not just fighting for your world. You are fighting for every world, every civilization, every form of life that the Devourers would consume. You carry the hopes of the galaxy." Above them, the architect fleet waited in the darkness of space. Around the world, 7 million humans were feeling the call to become something more than they had ever imagined. And deep beneath the Earth's surface, things that had slept for millions of years were finally opening their eyes. The final battle for the galaxy was about to begin.